It's officially June 2025, and it's time to plant.
Oh, Pittsburgh soil.
Hello. Welcome back to Pittsburgh Home Garden. Well, today I'll be doing a bit of summer planting. I say a bit because I have actually suffered great losses. There has been torrential rains followed by very humid 85-degree days out of nowhere, and my seedlings have suffered. I have actually lost 3 trays of seedlings due to the weather. Come to find out, too much rain on your brand new seedlings is, cause for death. And I should have known that there wasn't enough drainage within these seed trays for so much consistent rain. But, I chanced it and I lost. So I figure this will be a nice little teaching moment to start out with that, if you are getting tons of rain, maybe go check on your seedlings. And also, always be sowing. These are the germinations from that last video. As you can see, 100% germination, and they are going to be ready for the garden, in just a couple weeks. So this is why you should always be sowing. You never know what can happen to your brand new seedlings, whether it be weather, animals, any type of random circumstance. Always be sowing. We have a very long season ahead of us, and there is no reason not to be continuously sowing your seeds. So nonetheless, even though I got some yellowing going on with these babies, they are ready for the ground. So let's go ahead and kick this off with a nice summer classic. Now, last year, some jagoff who looks like me said this:
I'm about to have a successful corn harvest. This is the year it happens. The first year, I tried it on one side of the house. Last year, I tried it on the other side of the house. Now there's no sides of the house because it's just direct, beautiful sunshine. I will have a successful and sexy little corn patch right here.
Little did that guy know how much destruction an 80-pound deer could actually do, and bird netting simply isn't enough. So I am back with another area of the yard to turn into my wonderful corn patch. Now, as you can see, I have fortified defenses this year. I got steel plates, I got fencing, I got wood fencing with other fencing behind it. I am so determined to get a wonderful little corn patch this year. Okay, so 2 important things to think about when you are actually planting your corn. Of course, number 1 is you always want to plant your corn inside of a block. That way the wind can pollinate all of the plants together because they're, kind of packed in a certain type of way. So make sure you plant them in a block. Don't go with a straight line, especially if you only have like a very small batch of corn that you are growing. And second, no one ever talks about the sun direction. You have to think about how your sun is actually going to hit your plants. How does it rotate around your house? My baby seedlings are here in the front, and the more mature ones are here on the back. That way, I don't have to worry about any type of shade blocking. Corn is very much of a grass type of plant, so it needs as much sun and as much nitrogen as humanly possible. All right, so now let's kick off melon season. I gotta tell you, I am so sad about my seedlings. I'm trying to put on a happy face for the video, but I am so incredibly sad. We all seen last week how beautiful all the seedlings were, and how this week, so much can change. If you were someone who was picking up the wonderful hobby of gardening to find peace, to find joy, just know there are going to be moments like this, where you feel like an absolute numpty because you should have did something, couldn't find time to do it, or slipped your mind, and it really affects your seedlings. But nonetheless, we are over here in what is going to be my brand new melon bed. Now, I have grown many of things in this nice little box structure that I built a couple years ago. It has been a pepper bed, it has been a sweet potato bed, it has been a bed full of onions, and this year it is going to be a bed full of melons. I really think that my biggest problem with melons over the last couple years has been, the animal pressure, and also just placing them in wrong places. Last year, I tried to grow my melons in a grow bag, and they suffered because I truly believe something this big that requires so much water and nutrient needs to be in the ground if possible. Now, a quick word from today's sponsor. Did you know that ages 0 to 3 are some of the most developmental years for kids' association with what food is? And one of the worst things that we do is feed our kids packeted, smushed up nothingness. Don't believe me? Here's a Business Insider video that I won't play because of copyright. And one of the best things we can do is actually give our young children real fruit so they can play with it in their hands so they can better associate it, as well as helping them learn what real fruits and vegetables look like, which you can do today with my coloring book, ABCs in the Garden. This 32-page double-laid children's coloring book came from these same hands that are putting plants in the ground. I want to thank everybody that has already purchased a copy and have sent me photos and videos of the children in their lives learning from my book. I am so appreciative. And if you would like to share the wonders of gardening with the children in your lives through a coloring book, you can go ahead and check the Amazon link below. Now back to the garden. So here I have about 32 very, very hungry cucumbers for the ground. They are starting to yellow, as you can see, and that is because all the torrential rain and the lack of drainage inside of the seed trays. So my big plan this year is actually to spread out these cucumbers throughout the yard. Just like many other gardeners here in Zone 6, Zone 7, last year I suffered a lot from the cucumber beetle. For some reason, it just seems to be like an infestation last year. So to combat that, this year, I am actually going to hide them all throughout the yard. Actually, where I'm laying is right in between my row of tomatoes. So I'm gonna have these tall tomatoes and hopefully in the middle, nice and hidden, have a bunch of cucumbers here. Here, inside the very protected greenhouse in-ground bed. By the way, just to talk about the greenhouse for 2 seconds, it's been going crazy in here. These greens are so sexy and they're super yummy. I've been making tons of stir fries and salads. And I'm also putting my cucumbers in the brand new protected Mother Bertha bed. For any new subscriber, this is honestly a man versus wild series. Every year I come up with new ways to beat the goddamn animals around my yard because they tear me up. So this year, I have actually decided to purchase a huge insect net to just cover the entire bed. I really didn't like the idea of having to create little miniature hoop houses inside the bed to really break up the flow. So why not just try to encapsulate the entire bed inside some insect netting? So hopefully my harebrained scheme of placing the cucumbers all around the yard results in me actually getting tons and tons of cucumbers this year. All right, so moving on, we have some lemongrass here. I am actually in a space in the yard in which I grew squash last year, and it did pretty well for a while until the animals realized where the squash was. So I have actually come to the thought of anything that doesn't need to be protected from the animals should just fill empty space in my yard. And the one thing animals don't mess with are your herbs. So why not put lemongrass over here? For anybody who has grown lemongrass, you know how big and bushy it can actually get. So although this is a very large space, these 5 plants are going to completely fill it up. I actually have a tray of seedlings of lemongrass where I'm going to put in other patches all around the yard, maybe even in front of the house, because lemongrass is just so aromatic. As you're walking past and the breeze is blowing, you get a nice little whiff of it, and it's just so sexy to just have around the yard. So why not have a bunch around? Now we move on to a summer classic that is secretly my favorite. Don't tell the other plants. So sadly, Pepper Daddy has to report the death of my overwintered peppers. It seems that at the beginning of March, when they started to put out leaves, I should have let those leaves actually live on, because that was a sign that the roots were starting to form. Instead, I picked them because it was still very cold outside, and I thought, you know, maybe I just save time, make sure they stay dormant, and that was a little bit too much for the peppers. So we'll make adjustments for next year. That leads us to our brand new peppers. Pepper Daddy has never going to be without peppers. So as you can see, I have a couple store-bought peppers and I have my homegrown ones. And largely the only difference between these two is that the store-bought peppers are a bit taller, at least 2 to 3 inches taller, because they were grown under optimal, conditions. Not saying that, my babies are lacking in any type of way, but they certainly aren't as tall. So if you find yourself kind of behind on peppers because they are a very long season type of grow, maybe you pick some up. I got these like 4 for $10 at the local Home Depot. Now, one advantage of buying the peppers is I actually know what they are. My labeling system for all of my peppers kind of suck. So I have 4 peppers in here that I have no idea what they are. I have one kind of big pepper here, which I don't know what it is. My store-bought peppers are actually the sweet banana pepper. I have a pepper that I haven't heard about. It's called Thunderbolt. It's supposed to be a very large red sweet pepper, and I figured why not try it out. And I actually have 2 of those because I was actually excited to try out a new variety. I might actually buy a couple more peppers because I want to make sure I have tons of shishitos. But for the most part, Pepper Daddy's going to be killing it. You already know. So we are back in the greenhouse with our nasturtiums. For anybody who has never grown nasturtium, it is a very beautiful, productive flower. It vines. It likes to hang. It grows very long and colorful. Pollinators absolutely love it. And it's actually edible, which I actually plan on trying out this year. So with my nasturtium, because they are a delicacy to the animals, stop me if you notice a theme here, I am going to have these inside of the greenhouse, and I plan on planting them behind all of the plants I already have in here, so I can actually create a wall of nasturtium. A lot of the outside frame is actually going to have to be figured with fence, so animals don't jump in here. So that would be a perfect place for my peas, my beans, and my nasturtiums to actually grow, and I can have a beautiful wall of flowers. At least that's the plan. So up next, we're actually going to go with our legumes. All right, so we are back in the Big Bertha bed, and I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, this bed is crushing. My vegetables are doing so well. The bok choy, even though it's starting to flower, it's going crazy. The kale is going nuts. I told you I was a man of tall kale. My collard greens are really starting to put up growth. All of my lettuces are starting to put out growth. This bed is so fruitful, and none of this would have happened if I wouldn't have put up this bird netting. 360 all the way around bird netting. So I figure what a better place to put my peas and my beans, because these plants are actually legumes. They don't really need pollinators. They really just kind of grow themselves. And I figure the Big Bertha bed is actually an amazing place for these legumes because of the insect netting that I have here. There won't be many pollinators that get in the bed. So if you decide to do like I did and purchase a 100-foot insect net, just know that all the plants that you put inside of that insect net should be more on the brassica legume type of side, because anything that needs heavy pollination will actually struggle in here because, of course, there no insects can get in. So here, alongside my hidden cucumber patch, I'm going to put a few different varieties of peas and beans. I have your classic snap pea and your golden bean there. I have a black eye pea, which I actually don't eat, but my uncles absolutely love it, so I'm kind of growing it for them. And I have what I'm most excited for, my red pole bean. Now, I've grown different type of pole beans before, but this red one looks so sexy. I actually can't wait to harvest it. And because it is a pole bean, it is going to need some type of trellising. I am actually underneath a trellis that I used last year for my tomatoes, which I am going to be using for the cucumbers and the pole bean, of course. So it's going to be a great reminder as I come over here to grab my trellis beans to actually go ahead and self-pollinate my cucumbers, because to the point in which I just mentioned, it's going to be hard for the cucumbers to actually get the pollinators that they need. So I'll be out here with a toothbrush doing it by hand. All right, we are now... Whoa. We are now wrapping up the video. I just heard my first bit of thunder the drizzling is actually starting to pick up and I can't have my camera out here. So I am going to plant these squash off camera. I want to thank you for watching. As always, what a beautiful end to a wonderful long planting day. If you would like to support the channel, please check the links below. I will see you in soon. And as always, until then, I'll be here gardening.
Oh, Pittsburgh soil, where melodies find roots. In my garden of jazz, wearing dandy boots. Nature's got the beat, and the blossoms hum. Every flower's a note in this lifelong drum.